Hello, this is Jana here for your Tuesday video on Beyond the Borderline. This week we are answering a question from the moderator, which asks which traits of BPD do you have and which don't you have. This question was directed at Missa, but we're all going to answer it this week. So I'm just going to get stuck in that. I'm going to go through the 9 different areas that people with borderline personality disorder may or may not have. To be honest, I would say that I suppose I have traits of all of them, but then, you know, so does probably the majority of the general public. Not all of them are specific problems for me, so I'm just going to discuss the ones that are definitely a problem for me. I'm going to start with self-harm. That's probably one of the biggest sort of problems that I have to do with borderline personality disorder. Probably my self-harm has been going on for quite a long time. Before I was actually diagnosed with BPD. I'm actually in recovery from self-harm now, and I haven't self-harmed in quite a while. It is something that I struggled with the most throughout my diagnosis and throughout my life, really. And also the suicidal behaviours, threats, gestures, that sort of stuff. I wouldn't say that I particularly made threats or gestures like suicidally, but I have attempted suicide quite a few times. I find the sort of suicidalness in the criteria for borderline personality quite strange, really, because lots of people with or without mental health problems do commit suicide. They don't have to have borderline personality disorder. But I have borderline personality disorder, and I have tried to kill myself quite a few times, so I guess that is something that I struggled with. But then I would say that the suicidal behaviour linked with borderline personality disorder probably goes hand in hand with the emptiness that is one of the criteria, that is chronic emptiness. I would say that was a problem for me as well. I think emptiness is kind of a hard thing to describe, really. But it's like a feeling, I suppose, that makes it difficult to want to sort of carry on and live a life, really, because it's not a nice feeling, which probably sort of made me end up feeling suicidal, going down that route. But, yeah. So the second problem, that's probably one of the biggest problems for me, is the paranoia and, what do they call it, delusions and dissociation. I'm not actually sure with the dissociation, though, whether that's to do with borderline personality disorder, my borderline personality disorder, or my complex post-traumatic stress disorder. But then I was told that post-traumatic stress disorder sort of leads on to borderline personality disorder, so I don't think it really matters. But yeah, dissociation is probably the biggest problem out of those sort of 3, the paranoia, delusions, and dissociation. With dissociation, the thing that I find actually helps the most is using my DBT skills, the mindfulness exercises that's in DBT. But yeah, paranoia is also a very big problem for me. I find that very hard to cope with, definitely very hard. I'm in recovery from self-harm and have been for quite a while, and most of my traits of BPD have pretty much gone, to be honest, but paranoia and associations, delusions, all of that is still right up there. Everything else has dropped down, but that's still right up there. Anger is probably the third biggest thing that I find difficult to deal with, and that I have a trait of, I suppose. I definitely have inappropriate anger and difficulty controlling it, but my DBT skills have definitely helped me control it, but the inappropriate anger still comes up. I think a lot of people with BPD actually have the anger problem. I'm not sure why, but a lot of the people that I have spoken to, have met, that have BPD definitely have anger problems. Not that that means that you have to. Sorry, right. Yeah, the mood disturbances for me isn't so much of a problem. I do suffer from depression, and my mood is generally always flat, so the mood, the unregulated mood sort of thing, that really hasn't affected me too much at all, really. I suppose I went through phases of it in the past, but it's definitely not a problem at all recently. No. Impulsivity, yeah, that is a problem for me. I wouldn't say that, well, maybe it's a slightly more of a problem for me than it would be for the normal person. Impulsivity about eating, like binging and purging, or drug taking. Yeah, spending money, stuff like that. I find that really difficult. I did have a problem with impulsivity, and as my old psychiatrist called it, promiscuity. Yeah, so that was a bit of a problem. My impulsivity is a lot more under control now, but it's still quite a big problem. Identity disturbance, it's not a problem for me. I don't think it's ever been a problem for me. No. Interpersonal relationships, the sort of intense and unstable interpersonal relationships, that's not really been a problem for me either. From what I understand of that, it's, in simple terms, that's an easy way to put it and understand it, is that you really like someone one minute and really dislike them the next. Sort of something along those lines. That's definitely never been a problem for me. I have attachment problems, or have, I suppose, and sort of liking and disliking people one minute, you know, that sort of thing. That's more to do with the attachment disorder than my BPD, but I suppose maybe it sort of crosses over, but it's not really a problem for me. And then the frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, yeah. No, that's never been a problem for me. So that's not something that I have a trait of. That's not including self-harm or suicidal behaviours, or threats or gestures. I think that's basically saying that if you felt like you were going to be abandoned, you might act in a way that's self-destructive, in a way to sort of stop that person from leaving you. But no, that's not a problem for me. So yeah. And that's pretty much my traits of borderline personality disorder and the ones I don't have. So I hope that helps you understand sort of my problems a bit more. And maybe, yeah. As Mr. said, we are still looking for another person for the channel. If you probably would have already watched Mrs. Monday video, but if you haven't, go and watch that. At the end, she will tell you how you can sort of get in contact with us if you'd like to become a member of the channel. So that's all for my Tuesday video. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and leave a comment or a question in the moderator if you have a question that you would like to be answered. Okay, so I look forward to speaking to you all next Tuesday. Bye!